Okay, so Alexei, I want to talk about something that we sort of touched on this morning. And you might hate this, but I really want you to think about it. If you are killed, if this does happen, what message do you leave behind to the Russian people?
Alexei Navalny has taken on the most dangerous job in the world, challenging the leader of the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin.
If I want to be a leader of this country, if I want to fight Putin, I have to organize people.
Война в Украине и война в Сирии. Я прекращу войну.
The Kremlin hates Navalny so much, they refuse to say his name.
I was banned from everything and blacklisted. But as I became more and more famous, I was totally sure that it will be problematic for them to kill me.
And boy, were you wrong.
Yes, I was very wrong.
Alexei Navalny arrives at this hospital in Berlin.
To have your dad, an opposition leader, being poisoned, it was literally like a book.
Come on, poisoned? Seriously?
We were so shocked. It's like Putin's leaving a signature on a crime scene.
It's kind of stupid.
We found a domestic assassination machine on an industrial scale.
Navalny will personally call these poisoners one by one.
Да. Это Навальный Алексей вас беспокоит. Хотел узнать, зачем вы хотели меня убить.
Oh my God, you ruined their day.
Navalny is stepping into a showdown with the Kremlin.
I want to go back and try to change Russia.
It's something worth fighting for.
Are you not scared, Alexei?
Поэтому бездействовать не надо.
The Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has been laid to rest in Moscow. The fiercest critic of President Vladimir Putin died 2 weeks ago in a remote Arctic prison. His supporters shouted, "Alexei, thank you," as his coffin was brought into the cemetery near the Moskva River. Earlier, thousands gathered outside the church where his funeral was held in defiance of riot police and official warnings from the Kremlin. One human rights group says at least 45 people were arrested at tribute events. Navalny's wife, Yulia Navalnaya, thanked him on social media for 26 years of happiness.
There was no surprise in the turnout, and frankly speaking, these people are brave because anyone who went there could have risked arrest on a completely trumped up on fake charges. So yes, I mean, kudos to them all. I think that what we've seen so far points to the fact that Alexei, whom I happen to know personally too, was correct to say that she's probably more radical than he is in opposition to Putin. But of course, it means that she will have to recreate his team, to boost it, to find her own messages and her own image. And that is a big task for her. If she succeeds, then I'm absolutely certain she'll pose a danger to Putin, even from the outside, even from exile.
Then there were difficulties with the priests, there were difficulties with the cars, with absolutely everything. Right now in Moscow, the cemetery is going to be closed because it will be 5 p.m. Moscow time when the gates are closing and they are not letting the people to put flowers on the grave. So they're doing everything they can to make this whole problem kind of disappear, because the authorities are facing the situation when they've done away with a person, but not with the problem that person represented for them. Thousands of people came to the outskirts of Moscow to pay their respects to the departed politician. And this picture, or rather those pictures, will not go away. They will stay in the people's memory.
Alexei Navalny was laid to rest in Moscow today, exactly 2 weeks after his death. Thousands of mourners gathered to pay their respects to the former opposition figure, expressing defiance and calling Navalny a true hero. Despite a large police presence and barricades set up in the area, mourners burst into applause as his body was taken into a church outside Moscow. The journalist writes. He notes that soon after the start of the war in Ukraine, totalitarian Russia began to ban all demonstrations against the omnipotence of the leadership. Even the most cautious criticism, even in private, is persecuted and severely punished by the regime. That is why today was probably the last mass quasi-rally against the Putin regime, which was not nipped in the bud by the secret services, special forces. With the death of Navalny, Putin overcomes one of the last obstacles on the path to unlimited claims to power over the largest country in the world, which shows increasingly fascist features.
Mourners have been gathering in Moscow for the funeral of the Russian opposition leader. There's been a heavy police presence in the city, including masked guards being stationed around a perimeter fence. The service is being held at a church on the outskirts of the capital, where Mr. Navalny and his family lived. The organisers of today's funeral have faced a number of difficulties. They say Mr. Navalny's body was only handed over to his relatives in the past couple of hours. And there have also been reports that Mr. Navalny's team hadn't been able to find a hearse to drive the body to church, nor a venue to hold a wake. The Kremlin says that it doesn't have anything to say to Navalny's family today. One of their spokespeople was asked by reporters a little earlier today to comment, and that was all they had to say about it. The Russian opposition leader, as you may remember, died in an Arctic prison where he had been held on politically motivated charges. Authorities have been warning that any dissent or any appearance of political protest, such as unfurling political banners and slogans, would be dealt with and would be clamped down on.
A representative of Team Navalny had to meet a representative of a Moscow funeral home at a cemetery at night. That was the shroud of secrecy that surrounded the whole plan. And there are numerous allegations of the authorities trying to put pressure on hearse drivers, funeral homes, trying to force them not to cooperate with associates of Alexei Navalny.
A snippet of what is the YouTube channel that's being run by Mr. Navalny's team, because obviously Russian TV, viewers won't be surprised to hear, Russian TV aren't covering Mr. Navalny's funeral, so it's his team that's providing a live stream. So that's footage there that's come directly from their YouTube channel. That's what they're putting out, and just within the past hour there are 130,000 people tuning in and watching their streaming, their footage of that. That there is a warning posted at the church entrance banning photography and any video recording of the ceremony. So it'll be interesting to see what the YouTube channel is able to stream and put out. Tell us a little bit more about what the authorities have said in terms of what people are allowed to do and how we're seeing people, supporters of Mr. Navalny, pushing against what the authorities are allowing.
So from the point of view of the authorities, we have to remember that President Putin and his spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, they've always been reluctant to even utter Alexei Navalny's name. So from the point of view of what the official media machine is saying, it's nothing. It doesn't exist, this whole event. So it's YouTube and various social media platforms where Russians have to go to see what's going on. And there are also reports of mobile communications being unreliable, possibly jammed in the area. It's an act of defiance in itself, because these people will be aware that in the past few weeks, hundreds of people were arrested after they laid flowers at these improvised memorials that sprang up across Russia.
Здесь, не знаю, больше 10 тысяч людей, и никто не боится, и все знают, чего они хотят. Да и пришли мы, наверное, просто потому, что почтить память человека, которого также не боялся ничего.
Потому что это человек, который когда-то заставил меня заинтересоваться политикой.
Ученик, спасибо вам.
Спасибо вам огромное.
Спасибо, Алексей. Спасибо, Алексей.
But we want to pause because funeral services for Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny have just wrapped up in Moscow. The 47-year-old's body now headed to a nearby cemetery where Navalny will be laid to rest. Crowds have gathered outside to watch this procession. Navalny, of course, died 2 weeks ago in a Russian penal colony. Joining us now from London, NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons. Keir, what more can you tell us?
Well, Willie, I said an hour ago that these images that we would consider ordinary in the US are extraordinary in today's Russia, and that's even more so now. There is now an image of Alexei Navalny in an open coffin inside the church. His parents among those gathered around him. The US ambassador is there too, with other diplomats. The Russian authorities harassing supporters right to the end, this morning releasing the body later than promised. But these scenes outside the church are as stunning, frankly, as what we are seeing inside the church, because as his coffin was carried into the church, as he arrived, we heard people shouting, calling out, Navalny. I'm just pausing there because you can hear them. Just remember that every one of those people in that crowd, and the organizers say that is more than 1,000 people there, and every one of them are risking jail, potentially a fine, but they're risking arrest, potentially a fine, potentially jail, simply to be there. The Kremlin making it clear that it is against the law, as it said, to attend unauthorized gatherings. Extraordinary scenes, and you mentioned that the service is now over. Though that crowd that you heard chanting Navalny, they're now chanting, "We will not forgive you."
As you said, it's in Putin's Russia an act of courage just to attend the funeral. We had reports from Navalny's family that some funeral directors said they could not prepare the body, they would not prepare the body or organize the funeral because of concerns around their own safety.